What's going on with the truckers? Welcome to Mutha News. Email us at muthatruckernews@gmail.com. Look, we got someone here, and this is why you guys follow the show, because we get people that are a voice in the industry. Yeah, Matt, introduce yourself. Tell people what you do, because we got some questions for you today.
Sure. My name is Matt Schrapp. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the Harbor Trucking Association. We represent motor carriers doing business at the West Coast of the United States, moving containers to and from intermodal and marine gateways.
So, it's a big topic. We dropped a big one the other day. People send me links all across, and some people send me links from what you posted as well. And, it's this whole thing, right? Cal Matters, what they put California abandons diesel truck ban and three other
Right.
clean air rules before Trump is sworn in. And they said this was like a quote, end quote, from like someone from CARB, like a director over there, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, more or less, the chair of the Air Resources Board, Leanne Randolph, she made a comment more or less to saying, with the incoming administration not having traditionally been supportive of our air quality measures, that they've decided to withdraw the waiver request for the advanced clean fleets. There was a couple other waivers that were impacted as well. The rail and the parts of the harbor craft that had a partial approval, so they were called back, the stuff that hadn't been approved. But the big one for us, obviously, is going to be the advanced clean fleets rule. That was the requirement for drayage operators, especially both in the marine side and in the class one intermodal rail yard side, that they were be prevented from adding in internal combustion engines starting 1/1/24, and then subsequently forced into retirement once this useful life provision hits. And the only vehicles that could be added in after 1/1/24 would have had to be zero emissions. So that rule effectively is unenforceable at this point in time. As the Air Resources Board, as the Air Resources Board acknowledged that they needed a waiver, or at least a determination from EPA that they didn't need a waiver on both the reporting requirements and vehicle standard for as zero emissions. So big news, frankly. It's we're moving in a different direction now, at least relative to the advanced clean fleets rule. They cannot move forward with it in its current form. They cannot enforce it in its current form, is how it sits today.
Wow. So, so a lot of people hear about this whole like 2032, 2042 for all, supposedly all, zero emissions for heavy duty and mid-sized duty trucks. But people are forgetting that for the port drivers, they wanted to do this to you guys like last year.
Exactly. Exactly. We, on more than one occasion, have even had to correct ARB officials about how their rule impacts drayage operators. And so at this point in time, I guess back to the drawing board, just to say the least. The rule as it's currently written, which we had major issues with. Obviously, our partners at the California Trucking Association were leading a lawsuit, amongst several others at this point in time. But it would seem now, if they're not going to be enforcing the rule primarily because of that waiver issue, then we're back to the drawing board again.
Man, I'm sure a lot of your truck drivers that you help represent are really smiling today, right? Because I've had so many drivers say, Alex, what am I going to do? Am I going to have to be forced to get this new truck or not? And in the comments, I saw one thing, and this might not sound like a big one. Maybe you could update us on this, but California supposedly is starting to do smog checks, right? And it's one of those things where I know it's supposedly a $30 fee, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when I posted this video yesterday, people are like, Alex, does that mean, do I still need to pay this $30 fee? Or, I didn't know what to tell them. I just said, hey, it sounds like you still probably do. It's back to the drawing board. Or, where does that lie with that smog fee?
Two different rules, right? So the advanced clean fleets rule, which was the zero emission mandates, differs from the clean truck check, which is effectively the diesel smog check. So that's an annual $30 fee per truck to the state of California. That is not the test fee. That's just your registration fee. So that needs to be completed in order to receive your registration from the DMV. And then there's an out of state component as well. So no matter where you're coming in from, technically you're supposed to be registered into the program and performing tests every 6 months. And it's either based upon your registration month if you're an in-state vehicle, or if you're out of state, a portion, it's going to be based on the number of your VIN. So that rule remains in effect. Absolutely. It's the Advanced Clean Fleets rule that had been impacted by this so-called waiver.
I got you. No, thank you for enlightening us on that because people get confused, and I don't know how
Yeah,
to answer this stuff too. What are the biggest confusions you think that are right now about California and what trucking and what you're hearing out there that people on our side are not
sure.
getting right? Anything out there?
Well, I mean, yes, this stuff is pretty confusing, right? I mean, there's a lot of different rules. We have the Advanced Clean Trucks rule, which already has a waiver issued for it. It's currently gone into effect here in California. So there is sometimes some misinformation relative, especially about the drayage side of when you need to turn over, how many years you had under ACF, etc. I mean, I think the main driver right now at this point is understanding that there is no Advanced Clean Fleets rule requirement that can be enforced as of yesterday. That is the zero emission standard for end users. So when we think of the end users, we think of the truck owners, the truck buyers. Those then are not going to be compelled, unless you're a state or government fleet, in turning over to a zero emission standard. The Advanced Clean Trucks rule is a mandate on manufacturers to sell a certain percentage of zero emission vehicles compared to their overall sales. So that is more the dealer rule, right? The OEM rule, and then you have the Advanced Clean Fleets rule, which is more the end user rule. So the end user rule is what the waiver was specifically focused on, and that, as of yesterday, is no longer in effect. But the diesel smog check, absolutely still in effect. So it's not like there's no standards in California, but differentiating between the three, yes, it can get very confusing.
When I see you going around giving these talks and educating all these truck drivers, what is the biggest thing that you want them to know? Because there will be thousands listening to this, and so you kind of have a stage here and this opportunity
Sure.
to do that, right?
Well, I think the thing that's important to know is that regardless of who's in Washington, D.C., the state of California has always had mechanisms that are able to get after heavy duty equipment operators using diesel or really any type of internal combustion engine. So while localized restrictions and requirements such as indirect source rules, other perhaps higher fees at facilities, that these are mechanisms that have been traditionally used to encourage a turnover that don't necessarily involve a direct regulatory calendar for when a truck can or cannot continue to operate. And so when you couple that with the clean truck check, you still have to keep in the back of your mind that when you're going to California, and I've heard many say that they're never coming here again in the first place, that it's hard to avoid it being the fifth largest economy in the world, for better or worse, sometimes in spite of itself. But the rules that they have, or the requirements that they have at their disposal in order to try to drive and encourage adoption of cleaner, more advanced technology, they can most definitely leverage those. So just because we have a waiver that has been withdrawn from the process doesn't necessarily mean that there isn't going to be other measures that come forth to try to encourage the use of this technology either way.
Any last words for all the port drivers out there?
Man, I really appreciate, Alex, the opportunity to come and chat here and to get the message out and kind of cut through the mustard, so to speak, to get people to help understand exactly what is going on out here in California and how that impacts everyone. And of course, the last message is just thank you, all you men and women out there who are on the highways every single day delivering all the essential goods that it takes us to survive and to drive the economy. A big thank you from myself and all of my family and friends. We know we can't do it without you folks, and we're here to support you guys. We're fighting the good fight, so to speak. This is definitely a positive development, and I think an indication of where exactly we really should be focused on, which is a sustainable transition in anything.